Hi, everyone. This is Dustin with Momentum Multifamily. I'm excited to have Dr. J on the show today. Love your name, by the way. Yeah, Dr. J, if you want, I'll kind of hand it over to you if you want to introduce yourself and we'll kind of dive in.
Sure. Yes. My name is Dr. J. My full name is Dr. Janeeka Benoit, and I am a full-time travel physician specializing in internal medicine and sports medicine. And I also help other physicians and busy professionals invest passively in real estate. I really got my journey started pretty early within my career in medicine as a second year resident. So for those of you who don't know, it's like a medical apprenticeship. This is where you are a doctor, but you are functioning underneath a supervisor.
Hmm.
And then it was then I became an accidental landlord to now owning about 60 plus units. So it's been a very fun, challenging journey, but I'm grateful for my experience, and I'm also grateful for all the people who've helped me along the way.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great and appreciate that. And could you kind of give a little bit of a background? I know you're a doctor and physician, but maybe talk about where you live and kind of where you grew up and kind of what that looked like for you.
Yeah, most definitely. So originally, I am from Brooklyn, New York, and I was born and raised there. I always kind of knew that I wanted to be a doctor. My father is also a doctor, so my father is a nephrologist, that's a kidney doctor, and I just kind of grew up within just being part of medicine. I would go see patients with my dad. I would
Oh,
do
wow.
hospital rounds with my dad. And my dad also owned his own practice. So I got to see what it was like owning a business from my dad. And we also went on vacation frequently. So we would always be traveling, right? And so I remember just like being at the pool and he'd be talking to his staff, by the pool side, or we'd be going through Disney World and him taking a call to speak to one of his staff members. So I got to see firsthand what it looked like to be a physician and a business owner and have a family all at the same time. And as I was going to medicine, I had a vision of what I wanted my life to look like. And that vision was like, I didn't really see myself working in medicine until I was in my 60s. I really saw myself just practicing how I liked, just having the freedom to see patients when I wanted to and really not really just like tied down into my role as a physician, but
Right.
really having freedom and flexibility. And I saw myself owning my own business. I wasn't sure what that was going to be at the time,
Hmm.
but I knew that my life as a physician was going to be different, and I think a lot of the inspiration came from my dad. But I knew that I also did not want to have that typical physician life. Typically when people think of doctors, they're burnt out, they're overworked, they don't
Mhm,
have time to do
mhm.
anything, and I did not want to be that way. And so into so I went to medical school in Kirks, Missouri at A.T. Still University,
Hmm.
and I went to residency in Jamaica, Queens, New York. And so I did go back home to New York City for residency. And then and then it was during residency, that is when I became an accidental landlord. So I spent three
Oh.
years in internal medicine residency. And in my second year, I became an accidental landlord. And as an accidental landlord, I found myself just taking on more responsibility than I intended to take. And it was very overwhelming, especially while in residency. It's like your
Yeah.
apprenticeship for being a doctor. So I'm learning how to be a doctor, I'm learning how to be a real estate investor, and I'm learning how to be a business person all at the same time. And I go through residency now with having two single family homes and a duplex. And
Hmm.
then I go through fellowship. And then during that time, we have the pandemic, right? And
Oh,
so,
wow.
2020, my properties were in Chicago. There was an eviction moratorium. My tenants stopped paying rent.
Oh
And I was like,
no.
it's getting even worse. Um, and still very new doctor in training. And as I am learning how to manage these properties during this pandemic, I had a pretty frank conversation with my CPA. And I was on a Zoom call with her, and I was literally in tears and telling her, I am extremely overwhelmed. I don't know how to do this. I feel like I have to choose between being a physician and learning how to manage these properties. Like, how, like, I don't know what to do.
Right. Right.
And especially with being a physician, like, it's a pretty clear cut path, right? And
Mhm.
so, I was really good at doing the steps of becoming a physician, and but real estate was a whole different arena.
Mhm.
And it was really hard to adjust, like businesses like I mean, it's similar, but it's also different. Like, I feel like in medicine, you have a clear cut path. You go to
Right.
medical school, you go to residency, you go to fellowship, you're an attending physician. But with business, there's really no single direction, no really path to follow,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So, and I think that was like a huge part of it too. It's just so different from what I experienced during my career. And so, I'm speaking to my CPA and I'm like crying. I'm telling her how overwhelmed I am. And I'm thinking she's going to offer me some like words of empathy or words of encouragement to help me get through this. And she tells
Yeah.
me, you need to go bigger.
Hmm.
And I said, wait, I don't really understand. I just told you that I'm overwhelmed with my two
Right.
single family homes and my duplex. So, like, why are you telling me I need to go bigger? She said, you need to own an apartment building. I said, wait. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about, because if I can't really, if I'm having trouble managing these two single family homes and duplex as a new doctor, what makes you think that I can manage an apartment building as a new doctor? She said, no, you don't do it by yourself. You do it with other people. And so you get to leverage the responsibility amongst more people instead of having to do things solely on your own. And I was like, oh, okay, like I don't have to do this by myself. And she then introduced me to my coach, Michael Ealy, and then the rest became
Oh.
history.
Oh, okay.
So
Gotcha. Okay.
that's in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's so cool. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yes, yes.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, it's amazing what just a conversation will do and an introduction and all that. That's super cool. Just I guess as you and I'm kind of curious, so just kind of going back to your upbringing and your father, because it sounded like you saw him be a doctor. And so did you see anyone else? Was there, because you were becoming a landlord, it sounded like maybe whether you want to or not, but did you have any friends or family that had rentals, or did your parents have your dad have rentals, or what,
No, I mean,
anybody
besides,
else?
no, really just besides
Okay.
his practice.
Oh
So he
wow.
had
Okay.
his practice. That's really, that's what he owned. But in terms of investment properties, no. And so,
Okay.
yeah, that was a new world for me that I had to navigate.
Mm.
But no, but I think what I really took away from my dad was him just like being his own boss, right? And
Yep. Yep.
just like really making sure that he's carving out his own lane for himself. And it's interesting, when you're a kid, you don't really realize what's going on until like you get older, and then you're like, oh wow, like that
Yeah.
really shaped a
Yeah.
part of
Yeah.
who I am today.
Yeah. That's
Because my
cool.
dad really, like, I was part of, like, I was in his practice, and so I got
Hmm.
to see what it looked like. Like, he was the boss, he was the person that everyone answered to, and we had a lot of flexibility because he made sure that he had time for us, and so he was able to have own his practice, but also make sure that he took time for his family.
Right. That's awesome. That's
Hmm.
great. Um, and then curious, so how is, just kind of as you went, because it had to be super scary. I know I owned apartment buildings, and we were concerned. We're like, are people going to pay? Like, I hope so. And I'm sure that had to be, pretty scary. And hopefully that, turned out okay for you. I'm sure it, took some, definitely, made you sweat a little bit, and definitely probably made you worry a little bit, but hopefully that ended up okay for you. But just kind of going through your journey, navigating your journey and all that. Would love to just, so your coach is, or I don't know if he still is or not, but your coach is Mike Ely, and
Yeah,
that's
he's
who.
still my coach. Hmm.
Okay, and that's who kind of introduced you into getting into multifamily, and kind of going from a few doors up to tens, and maybe hopefully hundreds and thousands of doors in the near future for you. His Because I know you talked about it was very clear cut in med school. You have a path, and so it sounds like maybe he's helped kind of create that similar path
Oh,
for you.
most
So
definitely. So
awesome.
when I first started working with Michael Ealy, I remember one of our first um, coaching calls. And I was on the Zoom call, and everyone was like talking about what deals they have going on,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone was talking in millions. And I'm like, do I even belong here? Because
Yeah.
like you guys are talking about multi-million dollar properties. Um, but I kept on going. I kept on attending all the calls,
Hmm.
despite being very intimidating by all the zeros that they were
Yeah. Yeah.
speaking in. And I went to all of the conferences. We have with my mastermind, we have two conferences per year. So
Hmm.
ever since I started the mastermind, I went to every single conference. I just made sure that I made time in my schedule to attend. And so even with going to all the conference with multifamily, sometimes it's a new language you have to learn. And so um, even with going to the conferences, I was like, okay, well, this is still vocabulary that I am not familiar with, but I kept on attending the calls. I kept on attending the conference. And then eventually the vocabulary started becoming more familiar. The
Right.
numbers started getting less intimidating, right? And so I was able to speak in that language with more ease than I had before. And so that's what got me comfortable. And then initially, before I became a GP, I became an LP, I became a limited partner.
Mhm.
And that helped me understand the process so that when I was ready to bring in my own investors, I can explain the process to them, right? I wanted to make sure that I went through the process first. And then from going to an LP, I became a co GP with actually the same
Mhm.
team that I was an LP with. And those were all people that I connected through my mastermind, or they were connected to my mastermind in some way. And so just having people that I trusted and who I knew and developed a relationship with was really important. And the relationship
Yeah.
piece is extremely important because through our relationship, we and I got to see how aligned we were, right? And so
Mhm.
we were aligned in values, we were aligned in mission. We got along together. We liked each other. We laughed together. We joked together. We would call each other and check up on each other. And
Yeah.
so I knew that if I was going to be, investing with anybody, like I wanted to make sure that our values, our vision were aligned, and that we had our character was also similar. We were aligned in
Mhm.
character. And that is how I got into multifamily, but really it started with being part of a community, right? Being part of a
Right.
mastermind, because
Right.
that helped give me the structure that I
Mhm.
initially did not have. And they were able to at least lay down some steps like, hey, start here, then go from here. And as I started taking action, I started becoming more confident
Right.
about doing more and believing in myself more, and saying, okay, well, I'm an LP. I think I'm ready to be a general partner. And
Yeah.
taking those steps, from one thing led to another. But overall, with every action that I took, it helped to increase my confidence to go for more.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah, I think that's super helpful. I remember, similarly when I first started, I did, probably sounds like similar to you. I had half a dozen rentals and I did a few flips as well. And then I started to hang out with multifamily people, and it was, I mean, it was pretty intimidating. I mean, this sounds might sound silly just because of, the kind of, everybody's within the multifamily world's kind of gotten like, oh, 100 units, 200 units, 300. But I remember I met a guy, this is in like '08, 2008, I think, and he had 24 units. And I'd never met anyone that owned more than like a duplex. And so, I mean, it sounds silly, but like my mind was, mine was blown. And then I met people that own 50 units and 100 units and 200 units. And I had lunch with a guy, it was probably 2012 or so, where, he owned 5,000 doors, all across the country. And then, so anyways, it's interesting just, once you kind of get in those circles and then you hear it enough and you get comfortable. I mean, it's pretty much, it sounds like your entire childhood with your dad. I mean, you got to hear him every day talk about medicine and how he interacted with different people. And so all of that became, super common and very comfortable to you, to where you probably got into med school. And, I don't know how many, current doctors, came from families that had a doctor. But it was, for you, you probably stepped into it and you're like, oh yeah, that's why I know this is like back home,
Right.
type of thing. But um, as far as your, so talking about, I know you're an LP first, which I think is great. I hear, a lot of people that are like, hey, I want to get going. I'm like, well, at least for me, I did, I followed the same path. I like to dip my toes in the water. I'm not
Right.
a jump in the deep end,
Same here.
not looking type of thing. And so I wanted to make sure it was real and it
Right.
worked. And then I started to get, it wasn't life changing money, but like I started getting a few checks. I'm like, okay, I like this. So, would love to hear about your first deal and just kind of how that went. And then it sounds like you've worked with this team for a little while. And so, would love to, maybe hear, how that went, and then maybe, maybe a few things you learned from it as well.
Yeah, so my first deal was a 12 unit apartment
Mm.
complex in Kernersville, North Carolina. And a lot of the GP team were members, or at least connected to members of my mastermind. I had one person who was definitely
Mm.
in my mastermind, and then the others, they were connected in some way to my mastermind. So I was like 1 degree of separation from the other members of the GP
Oh, cool.
team.
Yeah.
They either knew somebody from the mastermind, or they were somehow connected. And so, number one, I wanted to make sure that I knew people, right? And so it's just like, because then I was able to vet them based on the people that I knew from my mastermind, right? And so, just vetting the people from other sources, that also gave me a lot of that gave me a lot of comfort, to move forward, especially being an LP in an apartment building for the first time. I needed that assurance from people that I trusted, um, from people that I trusted to vet the people on the GP team.
Mm.
And so this was a smaller deal, and I was like, okay, well, like you were saying, I'm not like a jump like deep in the
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
It was a 12 unit apartment building, and And it really did not need a whole bunch of work, and so it was value add play. And I felt really comfortable. The GP team, they were so great. I was able to get on a call with them and ask them further questions about it. And I love that they had multiple exit strategies,
Mm.
and so those are things that made me comfortable to move forward. And I actually just received my first distribution from that
Oh,
first one
cool.
last month. And so that has been great. And then, as a co-general partner, I was able to bring in investors, and this was for a 54-unit apartment complex
Mm.
in also in North Carolina. This is in Mount Airy, North Carolina,
Mm.
and it's with the same team that I invested with as an LP, right?
Oh, cool.
And that was intentional because I knew that if I was going to bring investors into any deal, I want to make sure that they're with people that I already trust, that I've already invested with, and who I can, really speak highly of because I've already worked with them. And in that deal, not only was I with a GP, but I was also an LP as well. And
Oh, cool.
so I went in both ways as a GP and LP. And I got my first distribution from that just like 3 weeks ago.
Mm.
So those deals have been, I mean, really, really great. And now with being on the GP side, I'm able to learn just more about the intricacies of what it's like to be a GP and learning how to manage the apartment building because I'm now on the meetings, on the monthly GP meetings.
Mm.
And it's really exciting. It's really exciting. It's exciting as an LP, but even more as a GP because we're able to talk about okay, like the day-to-day affairs of what's going on in the building. And so with
Mhm.
the 54 unit complex, we are well into renovations. We have a model apartment units
Mm.
um, on the property, and that was intentionally done by a property manager so that our residents can really get a feel of what they can expect their unit to look like. Our property manager also held meetings with the residents, and everyone so far is really excited for the changes that are happening,
That's
all
great.
the upgrades that are happening, and it's really excited to be part of that journey and deliver that level of value to this residential community.
Right.
So being part of those meetings and talking about those things um, is really really it's really fun. It really doesn't even
Yeah.
sound like work. And I also sometimes see it's very similar to medicine because I
Mm.
look at an apartment building like I do like a patient because like I look at the apartment building like this apartment building is quote unquote sick, and it's sick
Mhm.
because it's not generating as much income as it should be. And
Mm.
so as a team, right? Like we're like part of a medical team. You have the internist, and then you have all these consultants. They all come together and they figure out how to make their patient better. And it's kind of very similar to that way, where
Mm.
I'm coming along with my co-general partners, and we're consulting together so that we can improve the health of our apartment building. So that's why I love it.
That's cool. Yeah, it's funny. I've never made or thought of that analogy before. I always think of so the analogy that we use a lot. So I've played sports my whole life, and so I play soccer, and my business partner plays baseball or plays baseball. And so I always thought of it kind of like a team sport. Like you need to have a goalkeeper, you need or football, you need offensive line, you need a quarterback, running back, wide receivers, and so everybody has their assignments. And so, but I never thought about that analogy. That's cool. That's a good one.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, yeah, it comes with the territory,
yeah,
It's just like
right,
I
yeah,
kind of can't
yeah.
help it. But that's part of the reason why I do love this aspect of, being a GP because it's really just, it's I feel like we're all consultants, and we're all
Mhm.
we have the same mission of improving the health of our building.
Awesome. And I know so you've hosted, I love the name of it, by the way. You've hosted a meetup, and I don't know if the webinar is also but the wealth prescription, which is super cool. It's great name, by the way. But um, are you hosting a meetup and webinars, or what was that
Yeah,
kind of
so
look like for you?
I'm doing both. I'm doing
Okay.
both. And so I started up with in-person meetups. So my first one was in March, had another one. No, my first one was in February, and I had another one in March, and then I had a webinar just last week. And so it's all called the Wealth Prescription, either meetup or the webinar if I'm having it online. And that has been really rewarding because a lot of the people who are coming to the meetups are people very similar to me,
Hmm.
whether a physician, dentist, someone in the health profession or a busy professional. And it's been rewarding because I feel like going through our rigorous careers, like we think that we are just maybe solely relegated to working in our careers and we're not
Hmm.
able to build wealth concurrently as we're working on careers. And my goal really is to just disrupt that you can do both, right? And it brings me back to when I was speaking to my CPA. And I was thinking, oh, well, like, do I have to give something up? And no,
Right.
I didn't have to. I was able to do both at the same time. And the main thing for me was really immersing myself in a community who was already doing this.
Mm.
And I was able to share a lot of their beliefs about building wealth and being really able to do something like this. And that is the same vision that I want to give to now professionals, doctors, even, residents and even medical students, that you don't have to just create income from your career, but you can
Mhm.
build something long lasting. You can build wealth alongside your career, and you don't have to give up the two. And it is possible, right? But I think number one, it starts with our belief, right?
Mhm.
Believing that this is something that is definitely within reach, and we don't have to give up medicine, but we are able to still do both, and we are able to
Mhm.
find that level of joy in our careers while building something sustainable.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, I think it's I think as more in the past, whatever years, I think that, a lot of people, I mean, so if you even look back 30, 40, so I was an engineer. I worked at Lockheed Martin. A lot of people there were working there for 30, 40 years. And I remember my boss, he'd worked there for 40 years, and his I think dad had maybe worked there, for a very long, similar amount of time. And so, and I was in the process of leaving, and I remember like he could not he's like, why would you leave? And for me, I just, it was a great job, lots of really smart people, and all that. But kind of to what you point to earlier, I mean, I wanted flexibility. I mean, I love, I do like working hard. I'm not, I'm kind of a busybody type. That's how I roll. But I wanted to be able to pick up my son from school, and I wanted to be able to take him to school. And if he has a function, I want to be able to be there for that. And I couldn't do that very easily at that job, just because of time constraints and all that. So, so I wanted, kind of similar to what you were saying. I kind of, I'm like, okay, that was great, made good money, paid bills, all that stuff. But like, I wanted something different, and, do make more money than I did, as an engineer, which is nice too. But really, I can't, similar to what the way your dad was intentional with vacations and all that with you guys. Like, I mean, I've got a few more years. My son's out of the house, and the time I'm going to spend with him is going to go down dramatically. Unfortunately, but that's kind of how life is, and I want him to be off and do what he wants to be doing. So anyways, but not to get on my soapbox, but so I want to be respectful of your time and all that. It sounds like you've cultivated a really great relationship and bond with some of your partners and all that, and I hope that continues to go really well for you. So I guess kind of in that vein, what do you see the rest of this year looking like for you, or how do you see the next few years looking? What's in store for Dr. J?
Yeah, so this year, for me, this year is really about nurturing relationships, and really just showing the physician, healthcare professional community, another way that they can build wealth, right? The fact that they don't have to um, do the day-to-day affairs like as I was doing as a landlord. Like that's the
Mhm.
other thing. A lot of people think that, oh, well, if I invest in real estate, I have to be a landlord. And it's like, no, you don't. You don't have to be a landlord. If you have the capital, you can invest your capital while you allow other people to do the work. And so it's nurturing those relationships with people who want more, just who want more out of their life, who wants another way to create wealth and bring value and bring this information to the physician, to the healthcare professional community. Um, so that's what I see, and I still do practice full time. So I still see myself practicing medicine. The way
Mhm.
that I practice medicine is actually the exact way that I envisioned it as a resident,
Hmm.
because I get to make my own schedule and I have a lot of flexibility. And that has been really, really great. I get to travel, right? So my love for travel, I think, was stemmed from going back to my dad, and just like we would travel
Yeah,
all the
that's
time.
cool.
And so I get to travel to different hospitals. I get to see, I
Mhm.
get to meet different people, get to meet, different doctors in different states. And that is just a lot of fun. So I still see
Yeah.
myself practicing and just doing things that I love and enjoy, such as fitness. I'm also, huge about fitness. I'm a runner. So I run. I did the New York City Marathon. I think like that was 2022. So it's been a while now. But just things that I enjoy, like spending time with my family, teaching
Mhm.
my family about this type of real estate investing, and just spreading this knowledge.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
great. So kind of veering away from professional over looking probably a little more on the personal side and all that. So you're in Nashville, lots of really good food there. Do you have any kind of go-to spots there for you?
Yes, so I love Urban Grub.
Okay.
It's a restaurant here in Nashville. They have really, really great seafood, so that's one of my favorite restaurants.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And do you have a book podcast or quote that impacted you that you really enjoy or really like?
Yeah, so the best ever syndication book by Joe Fairless
Hmm.
was very, very, very impactful. I really love the way that he laid down the steps because like I told you, like
Okay, cool.
real
Yeah,
estate,
yeah.
it can
Like,
sometimes
what's the
go
path? Yeah.
right. Like it was like this is how
Yeah.
you raise capital. Like do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I really really love that book, and I have to refer to it, and I go to my tabs that I have, oftentimes, just to go back and refresh my memory.
Gotcha. That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think he's actually from Fort Worth, which is where I live, and that's where I'm from.
Yes,
So
I
I'm kind of,
believe so. And he
yeah.
also grew up in, I believe it was New York City. I want to say it's Brooklyn, but
Oh,
I'm not
really?
sure. But he
Okay.
like he worked in New York City for a little bit as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to look because I bet I'm probably, I don't know how old he is, but I think I'm probably similar age-ish. So I'm kind of wonder if curious. I'll have to look him up and see what high school maybe he went to
Yeah.
here. So that's super fun. Well, cool. How do people get in touch with you? What's the best way to learn from you and just connect?
Yeah, so I think the best way is on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. So my full name is Janeeka Benoit. And so you can find me there. And then I'm also on Instagram as Sis Negotiates. So those are two ways.
Okay, awesome. Sounds great. Well, really appreciate your time today, as always, and great getting to know you. And yeah, just appreciate your time and looking forward to chatting soon. I'll let you know when I'm in Nashville again. So,
Oh yeah, most definitely. We have to make it happen. We have to go over and grub.
okay, let's do it. Yeah, sounds good. Well, have a great day.
You
All
too.
right, see
Thank
you. Good
you.
seeing you.
All right,
Bye.
bye.